experienced his childhood pastimes. Nanda and Jasoda experienced them fully. They're most fortunate. So what we're going to be discussing this evening, because previously it's the exaltedness of both Nanda and Jasoda and their position as eternally the father and mother. And then now this evening is a little bit the position of Vasudeva and Devaki and how they compare. And just a quick summary. They, Vasudeva and Devaki, they understand Krishna's divinity. Mixed is also they're seeing him as their son, which is a little exceptional, but it's not so terribly exceptional, just like Devahuti, the mother of Lord Kapila, she saw Kapila as her son. She also saw him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Not exactly like a balance between two opposite poles. It's, it's kind of unusual. Or Queen Kunti, she saw Krishna as Super Soul walking around. That's like, what would that experience be like? But she had more of a difficulty accepting the role of mother than, let's say, Devahuti did in accepting the role of mother. But both of them clearly understand the Lord is the Lord, and they have a relationship with him. So Vasudeva and Devaki, we've been hearing, it was discussed, that Nanda and Jasoda, they are eternally existing as mother and father in the spiritual world. And when it comes time for Krishna's appearance, they manifest themselves. They have mother and father and so on and so forth, but these eternal personalities appear by birth, and they perform the mother and father Leela of Krishna, and he has a birth pastime, which they participate in. There's no birth pastime in the spiritual world, in Goloka, but there is a birth pastime when Krishna performs his earthly pastimes. Similarly, Vasudeva and Devaki, they're eternally situated in Mathura, in the spiritual sky. So Krishna Loka has 3 divisions, same as here. Vrindavan, Mathura, and Dwarka. 3 divisions of Krishna's pastimes, places of pastimes. They're eternal in the spiritual world. Vasudeva and Devaki, they're eternally there. And when it's time for Krishna's appearance, they appear in this world. When they appear in this world, they undergo austerities in their previous lifetimes, as was spoken by Krishna. And it's not the same for Yasoda and Nanda. They're eternally situated like that. They don't undergo anything. That's in the Leela. They're both eternal associates, but the mood of those eternal associates is a little different, in that one of these moods is they understand by their prayers when Krishna appeared in the prison house of Kamsa, they're well educated about the Vedas, and they understand who he is in very explicit terms. But they have a combination of parental affection, Vatsalya Rasa, and recognizing his opulence as the personality of Godhead. So the category, descendants in the Vrishni dynasty, so reference is going to be made to that. The royal family, the Vrishni dynasty. So they're the best of the Vrishni dynasty. So here we go. This is Jiva Goswami writing in Priti Sandarbha. Vasudeva and Devaki are considered to be the best among the good Vrishnis who had attained Aishvarya Gyan in its general aspect. Aishvarya Gyan. You know the meaning? Aishvarya Gyan?
No clue much. Aishwarya means like a lot of wealth. I know that.
Opulence.
Opulences.
So Aishvarya, Vaikuntha is abundant in Aishvarya, opulence. So there they have some of that. Aishvarya Gyan, knowledge of the opulence of the Supreme Lord. Though having this aspect, they showed also knowledge of sweetness, seeing Krishna as their child because of special pastimes such as birth. But this is secondary. As Narada comments, Narada is commenting now references to chapter 84 of Canto 10, that's where the solar eclipse and everyone goes to Kurukshetra, and different sages come and speak to everybody that's assembled there at Kurukshetra. And the one speaking in this particular incident is Narada, who's speaking to the assembly, saying, "O Brahmanas, it is not so amazing that in his eagerness to know, Vasudeva has asked us about his ultimate benefit, for he considers Krishna a mere boy." This is in Kurukshetra. He's still thinking of Krishna as his son, although at the same time he understands his divinity. And now Jiva makes a little summary of this chapter 84. Parikshit accepts that Madhurya Jnana, sweetness, is prominent in Nanda and Yashoda because it is natural for them. And this verse 46, what kind of pious activities did they undergo? Vasudeva and Devaki had natural Aishvarya Gyan starting from Krishna's birth. This is evident in their prayers. Sridhar Swami, in commenting on the following verse, establishes their Aishvarya Gyan. Quote, understanding that his parents are this is when Krishna, after killing Kamsa and freeing Vasudeva and Devaki, and they're in the prison house. That's where that chapter 45. First verse of the chapter. Understanding that his parents, Krishna, understanding that his parents were becoming aware of his powers, the Supreme Lord thought this should not be allowed to happen. Thus, he expanded his Yogamaya, which bewilders his devotees. So they had Aishvarya Gyan, but Krishna had to compensate for that. It has been said that it is rare to attain prema with the knowledge of the Lord as one's son. But they achieved that. The cowherds are designated generally as being, quote, Svajanam, or his people. This knowledge never wavers in the people of Vraja as it does for the Vrishnis. Back and forth. They saw Aishvarya Gyan, Krishna covered them with Yogamaya, but that doesn't go back and forth with Brijbasis. The inhabitants of Vrindavan, including the children, women, and elderly persons, thinking of Krishna just as a cow thinks of her helpless young calf, suffering and falling down, rushed out of the village intent upon seeing him. This is a quote from the Kaliya serpent. So Krishna's in the coils of the Kaliya serpent, and somebody goes back to Nandagram and says, hey, Krishna's in trouble. The inhabitants of Vrindavan, thinking of Krishna just as a cow thinks of her helpless young calf suffering and falling down, rushed out of the village, intent upon seeing him. Thus, it is concluded that Nanda was most excellent in having unwavering vatsalya, that is, never thinking of him as the Lord. Krishna was a son, there was no question about this. As Priti Sandarbha, that's the kind of love that he had. In Bhakti Sandarbha, Jiva Goswami writes, quoting, after the prayers of Devaki and Vasudeva, Krishna speaks to them both. He says, both of you, husband and wife, constantly think of me with eternal prema as your son. And maybe you once thought of me as Brahman, you will achieve my abode which you already possess, which they already possess means they have their position in Goloka. They've appeared for the purpose of his earthly pastimes. Now this is Jiva Goswami's translation. Here's the BBT translation, Prabhupada's translation. Both of you, husband and wife, constantly think of me as your son, but always know that I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By thus thinking of me constantly with love and affection, you will achieve the highest perfection, returning home back to Godhead. Paragraph. Both moods, bhava and reverence, toward the Lord are present in Vasudeva and Devaki, since they had a predominance of reverence towards the Lord, as well as being parents. It is stated that in their previous life, they prominently performed austerities. That's Suttapan Prishni. Parikshit did not praise Yashoda for seeing the universe in Krishna's mouth, but revered the Lord's mercy, called Maya, by which she felt affection for him as a son. He praises Yashoda's and Nanda's good fortune, not available to Vasudeva and Devaki, for seeing Krishna as their son, which inspired Krishna to perform his childhood pastimes. Shukadev praises their prema in chapter 9. This is the Damodar Leela chapter. In this way, the attractive Lord has shown that he is under the control of the devotee, even though as Swayam Bhagavan Krishna controls the universe and all the devatas. Paragraph. Narada teaches sadhakas, that's us, how to act using Vasudeva and Devaki as examples. He says in Canto 11, Chapter 5. Canto 11, Chapter 5. Krishna's pastimes are winding up. Narada pays a visit to Dwarka. He has a long discussion with Vasudeva in Dwarka. And here's one of his messages. You and your wife Devaki, having manifested love for Krishna and accepted him as your son, have purified yourselves by seeing him, embracing him, speaking with him, resting with him, sitting together with him, and taking your meals with him. The commentary says, quote, by pampering their son, they accomplished everything in Bhagavat Dharma. Same chapter, Narada to them. Do not think that the Supreme Lord, the soul of all beings, who conceals his powers, appears only as your son. Having human form as his Swarup, he hides his powers but remains with unlimited undiminished powers. Paragraph. Though this statement seems to discourage thinking of Krishna as a son, Sridhar Swami says in his commentary, quote, if affection for sons were a cause for liberation, then everyone would be liberated. In answer to this, he says this verse. They have affection for him as son, but he's the Supreme Lord. But he's not just the Supreme Lord of you, he's the Supreme Lord. So, though he is a son and is controlled by people who think of him in this way, he also has all powers as his nature. Thus, without considering knowledge or lack of knowledge of the Lord's powers, performance of pure Raganuga is best. Raganuga. Raganuga means spontaneous. So Nanda and Yasoda, they don't even pay attention to his powers. Vasudeva and Devaki, they pay attention to his powers. Powers or no powers, observing them or not observing them, it's following that path of pure devotion. Quoting, this is now Uddhava Gita, Canto 11, Chapter 11, Krishna speaking. Those who may or may not know the extent of my powers, my forms, and my nature, but who worship me with great possessiveness, I consider to be the best of devotees. Now this possessiveness is a term that our acharyas use a lot. Here's the BBT translation of that same verse. My devotees may or may not know exactly what I am, who I am, and how I exist, but if they worship me with unalloyed love, then I consider them to be the best of devotees. So this possessiveness is kind of like the spiritualization of the material idea of possessiveness. The material idea of possessiveness is, this is my computer, and over by the door is my shoes. And that's possessiveness in the material sense. In the spiritual sense is this: I am Krishna's, and Krishna is mine. It's an intimate sense of connection. Now, it's not Krishna is my possession any more than I am exactly like an object and Krishna owns me like you own an object in the material sense. But my life is for Krishna, and Krishna is similarly reciprocates and is dedicated to me. And that's how the residents of Vrindavan feel. That's this possessiveness idea, or the Raganuga idea. It's just so singular and focused. That's the idea. Paragraph. Last paragraph of this section. Because of the purity of Ragatmika Bhaktas, you familiar with the term?
Yeah, familiar with Guru Maharaj, I forgot exactly.
Okay. In the process of attaining Braja Prem, we follow vidhis, and after some purification by following vidhis, something happens in that purified state. That is, there arises a natural, already existing attraction for a particular type of service toward Krishna. Dasyaras, Sakyaras, Vatsalyaras, etc. Madhuryaras. And in that category, there are some perfected individuals. And they're Ragatmikas. And so one becomes a worshipper and a follower of a particular Ragatmika Bhakta. Like Mother Jasoda is an example. Or one of Krishna's gopis. Because there's different gopis with different moods, so someone may like this one, that one. They really are inspired by someone. Because of the purity of the Ragatmika Bhaktas in Gokula, the bhakti following them, that's the Raganuga Bhakti. The bhakti following them is the chief type of Raganuga. It is established that Raganuga is the greatest form of worshipping Krishna, since it displays Krishna's full nature and has great potency, which cannot be displayed anywhere else, that Raganuga is composed of Gokula pastimes. Rupa Goswami gives some commentary, or explanation in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and Jiva Goswami comments. The verse from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, in Gokula, Krishna appears as most perfect. In Dwaraka, Mathura, and other places, he appears as perfect and more perfect. Jiva Goswami's commentary. The perfection of Gokula includes fullness in majesty, as illustrated by the following. Now this is in the Brahma Vimoha Lila. Brahma saw what he saw after stealing the calves and cowherd boys. Then, while Lord Brahma looked on, all the calves and the boys tending them immediately appeared to have complexions the color of bluish rain clouds and to be dressed in yellow silken garments. Unquote. The perfection of Krishna in Gokula also includes fullness and sweetness. So majesty and sweetness. Sweetness. That's this verse that we've been discussing. The special mercy of Yasoda and Nanda, having perfection in ecstatic love for Krishna's parents. So majesty, sweetness, now comes mercy. Krishna in Gokula also includes fullness of mercy. That's the Putana story, a reference. Alas, how shall I take shelter of one more merciful than he who granted the position of mother to a she-demon, Putana, although she was unfaithful and she prepared deadly poison to be sucked from her breast. Manifestations in places other than Dwaraka and Mathura are not classified as more perfect or perfect in the statements, since no correlation of gradations has been given for these places, meaning Krishna performed pastime besides those three places. Rather, the gradations of perfect and more perfect should be applied appropriately to other places, such as Advanti, where Krishna went to school, Kurukshetra, and Hastinapur, according to Krishna's particular display of mercy, powers, and sweetness at these places. Perfect, more perfect, most perfect. That's Jiva Goswami's explanation of that verse by Rupa Goswami. And now we're going to read something from Gopal Champu. Gopal Champu is a text by Jiva Goswami where he's summarizing in very elegant language Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. So we'll begin here. Wondering where the cowherds were, they then asked permission to leave and were about to go. Vasudeva, with a desire to make his wealth successful, made a request to the sages. This apparently is in Kurukshetra. Please give instructions on how to destroy karma by doing actions. Nanda, it was Vasudev's question. Nanda began thinking to himself, Vasudeva is not aware of the pure parental feelings of Nanda. Nanda is praised profusely as follows. This verse 46. What ecstatic love they have and what austerities they have undergone. But Vasudeva is not praised like that. He is respected because he thinks of Krishna as the Supreme Lord. He thinks of Krishna since his birth as follows. My Lord, you are the Supreme Person beyond material existence, and you are the Super Soul. Your form can be perceived by transcendental knowledge, by which you can be understood as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I now understand your position perfectly. Paragraph. His feelings as a father are covered by this respect for Krishna as God. Thus, even though Krishna is present and he knows he is God, he inquires about destruction of karma, considering Krishna to be ignorant like a regular boy. Nanda desires only Krishna's well-being. His questioning in this way is not attractive. Narada spoke aloud. O Brahmanas, it is not so amazing that in his eagerness to know, Vasudeva has asked us about his ultimate benefit, for he considers Krishna a mere boy. Seeing Vasudev's, so when it says his ultimate benefit is Krishna. Seeing Vasudev's hesitation, the sages spoke to put him at ease. Quote, it has been definitely concluded that work is counteracted by further work when one executes Vedic sacrifices as a means of worshipping Vishnu, the Lord of all sacrifices, with sincere faith. Afterwards, Vasudeva accepted the sages as priests, and they had him perform the sacrifice for Vishnu. At that sacrifice, Marichi, Atri, Pulasya, and other sons of Brahma, were the priests. Vasudeva was the sponsor. Krishna and Balaram, taking the role of his sons, were the attendants. Nanda, taking permission, was also present. How to describe all the devatas, brahmanas, and kshatriyas worthy of worship at that sacrifice on earth? Now that's the end of text 46, and we've been referring to 46 and 47. We haven't even begun 47 yet. There's quite a bit more to go with this chapter. So let me read just a little bit of the beginning of 47. This is Vasudeva and Devaki were not as fortunate as Nanda, because Vasudeva and Devaki didn't experience the childhood pastimes. And the purport, Prabhupada's purport, Krishna actually took birth from the womb of Devaki, but just after his birth, he was transferred to the home of Mother Yashoda. Devaki could not even have Krishna suck her breast. Therefore, Parikshit Maharaj was astonished. How had Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj become so fortunate that they enjoyed the complete childhood pastimes of Krishna, which are still glorified by saintly persons? What had they done in the past by which they were elevated to such an exalted position? Vishwanath writes, since Krishna also drank Devaki's milk, although it says he didn't, it also says that one evening before he went to Gokul, she fed him. What is the difference between her and Yashoda? This verse answers by saying that Devaki and Vasudeva, who are famous in our family could not enjoy with their eyes Krishna's joyful childhood pastimes. Udara, or generous, also indicates that Rohini, who took the role of Balaram's mother, and the gopis, who acted as mothers during the stealing of the calves, were not excluded, whereas Vasudeva and Devaki were. Now, Jiva Goswami's commentary is really long, so I think we'll do that tomorrow. And doing these classes back to back, I'm a little fatigued. So let's see if there's some discussion. I'll make a little summary. This particular section, this concluding part of chapter 8 and the first parts of chapter 9 are they're focused on Yashoda and Nanda, of course, but it's the unique position of Braja Prem. Now, the Vedas have these three divisions: Sambandha, Abhideya, Prayojana. Well, for you it's this way: Sambandha, Abhideya, Prayojana. And that's understanding the relationship of all things with the source. And that's, Maya is to not understand even that. That is to say, there's no source, and since everything has no source, it's up for grabs. And I can try to make it mine, and that's demoniac mentality from the Divine and Demoniac chapter. So much is mine, I'm going to make more things mine. And I'm going to defeat my enemies, and I'm perfect, powerful, and happy, and so forth. That's demoniac mentality in its best. And the divine mentality is there's a source of everything, and everything must be connected with that source. That's based upon, that's knowledge. Like, aham sarvasya prabhavo matak sarvam pravartate. Krishna is the source of everything, everything comes from him, knowing that we engage in his devotional service. It's a very important understanding. That's its beginning understanding, and a very important understanding. And then, so that sambandha leads to abhideya, leads to prayojana. So what's prayojana? Prema prayojana, love. But now we're hearing more than prema is Braja Prema. What's like really, 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 really special about Braja Prema? And that has to do with the message of this essential message of the Bhagavatam. Swayam Bhagavan Krishna is the source of everything, including all the avatars. Very important understanding, because then love of Krishna in his role as the supreme person in Braja leads to Braja Prem. And so what is that Braja Prem? What is its uniqueness? What is its special features? There's this question that sometimes arises. You probably meet it in your Bhakti Vriksha groups or whatever. How do we select a spiritual master? Comes up. And once Srila Prabhupada was asked that at 26 Second Avenue, I mean, it was a very remarkable way how he responded. He was just speaking, in principle, and somebody, little unruly person, without waiting for him to end speaking, just interrupted the class and said, Swamiji, you often speak about accepting a bona fide spiritual master. How do you know who's a bona fide spiritual master? So he just stopped the class and addressed his question. And the way he addressed his question was, before you start searching for a bona fide spiritual master, you must know what one is. Then he gave the example. Supposing you go to a diamond shop and you don't know what is a diamond. And you go into a diamond shop and ask him for a diamond. The merchant may very well know that you don't know what a diamond is, and he'll sell you something else. And you, as far as you know, it's a diamond. So you have to know what the quality of a diamond is. You okay?
I'm just
One of Tamal Krishna Maharaj's disciples in New York, Kastuba, told the story that he went once with Tamal Krishna Maharaj, and he was like, I heard him say this more than once, but Tamal Krishna Maharaj was very street smart. He wasn't just like brainy, but he was street smart. So one time he wanted to get a watch. So he took Kastuba, was training him, how do you buy watches? So he went to a watchmaker and said, I want a watch that has crystal, not glass, and plastic on the outside. And the man said, here's a watch that's just crystal. So Tamal Krishna Maharaj looked him in the eye and held it on the top of the surface of the glass display case, said, if this is crystal, and I move it across the glass case, it's going to scratch the glass case. And if it's not crystal, it's going to break. And you say, watch the man's eyes. If you, no, don't do that. Then he knew he was cheating. It's just a street smart way, because he knew what the difference between glass and crystal. So if you're going to look for a diamond, you have to know what a diamond is, otherwise the merchant may cheat you. And if you don't know what a spiritual master is, then, who knows what you're going to end up with. So when we're searching for what's the goal of the Vedas, well, we know from Bhagavad Gita the goal of the Vedas is to know Krishna. Vedaishta Sayurvairaham. So what does knowing Krishna look like? And there's different ways of knowing Krishna. That's that very nice verse by Shukadeva Goswami that says the Lord is described in the Vedas this way, that way, that way, that way, but then there's Mother Jasoda. And that's Braja Prem. And it's unique. And something that we're going to hear, I think, tomorrow morning, there's degrees of that intensity of affection. And according to the degree of intensity of affection, that's going to determine our destination. I mean, the principle is, ye tam mam prapadyante. But to achieve Braja Prem, there has to be an intensity. Just like, keeping it very practical in terms of our everyday life, we chant every day. And how strong, when we're chanting every day, is our purpose of connecting with Krishna, and what's our sense of connecting with Krishna look like. And depending upon that, it's going to determine your consciousness, and your consciousness determines your destination. So we've been undergoing the cycle of birth and death quite a number of times. Who can say how many? And where are we going after this? So the determining factor is the strength of our absorption in and relationship with the features that we have an understanding of Krishna. So the Bhagavatam is helping us cultivate, become attracted to, meditate upon this Braja Prem. It leads to Raganuga Bhakti. It leads, if it's done properly. So it's nice. It's more than nice. It's the greatest of fortune. best service that you can render to a friend, and to be a friend of everyone, is to render the service where you remind them of Krishna. And the degree to which one can remind others of Krishna has a lot to do with how much we're remembering Krishna. And understanding that's the root, the forgetfulness of Krishna is the root of all suffering, whatever the suffering might be, whether it's the coronavirus victims or whatever. The root of all suffering is forgetfulness of Krishna. And to restore remembrance of Krishna, that's, of course, it's case specific what's going to be effective to do that. But that's going to be of service to others. It's part of the merciful nature of Krishna's pastimes in this world, is reminding others of him and providing topics to discuss about, instead of, what Donald Trump is doing today. It's, what's Krishna's eternal pastimes. And becoming absorbed in Krishna's eternal pastimes. Through that's part of the especially merciful nature of his manifest pastimes on earth. So we're availing ourselves and hearing from our acharyas about all these things, little by little. Let's see if there's some discussion.
So, Raj, basically, Yog Maya kind of managed how much Vasudeva and Devaki are in the mood of parent,
yes,
or in the mood of opulent, like as a.
That's right. That's right.
So does that happen with all other devotees of Krishna, or all other Brajvasis of the Krishna, and not even just in Vrindavan, and also in Dwarika and
yeah. Yes.
So basically, they are all under yoga. I mean, even Dwarika, Mathura, and all they are under yoga.
The action of Yoga Maya is according to their love.
Or their original position, I mean, in the spiritual world.
But their position has to do with their love.
Like,
some people have love that's more like this, and some people that's more like that. That's, as with rasa, also with where that rasa is taking place. Now, there's queens, and there's elders in Dwarka, and there's elders, and there's gopis, young gopis, in Vrindavan. So they are situated where they're situated, and they're experiencing what they're experiencing according to their love, and Yogamaya is assisting Krishna in fulfilling their desire for love, their loving desire.
But those desires, for example, in case of Vasudeva and Devaki, those desires are essentially the same as what they were when Vasudeva and Devaki are in the spiritual world.
Yes. And it's true elsewhere. But it's resting upon their how yayatam mam prapadyante.
Right. So because they were eternals, the associate of Krishna, they had an original love for Krishna in that way, but
and their natural position is they also have some Aishvarya again, mixed with the sweetness of parents.
right. It's basically extension of what they had in the spiritual world.
You're repeating yourself. Yes. Now there's a Leela that says they underwent austerities. But they have an eternal position, and there's a Leela showing what it showed.
Because you also mentioned about Nand Maharaj and Yashoda, Maya, that they were like a Drona and Dara. And
Yes. Yes. Not exactly that. The languages need some editing, but yes. Drona and Dar are their expansions, partial expansions. Okay? Are we clear?
Yeah.
You don't need to say it again. You're clear.
Yeah. And that's fine.
Okay.
One more question, Raj.
Yeah,
So
sure.
you always say that originally everybody belongs to spiritual world. Everybody is. So when you say spiritual world, we have different gradation or different basically Vaikuntha, Dwarika, Mathura, Vaikuntha, Ayodhya, Mathura, Dwarika. So in person effulgence as well. So what does it mean that everybody belongs to spiritual world?
Mean that?
Everybody belongs to spiritual world. Does that mean everybody belongs to?
You belong in the spiritual world. You made a boo-boo. And here you are. You forgot. But you belong in the spiritual world.
Does that also include impersonal Brahmajyoti as well?
It includes everybody. It's the spiritual world. The Brahmajyoti is not our natural place.
Okay.
Our natural place is with the personality of Godhead.
Not that.
Okay? That answers your question? Okay.
Maharaj, I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
One question is, Yasoda Maya and Nand Baba is in the Golok Vrindavan, the same position they get with the Krishna. Krishna is playing the Balu Rupa there, and because everybody is thinking Krishna is the Bhagwan, so over there in the Vatsalya Bhav,
Over there in Vatsalya Bhav.
Vatsalya Bhav happens in the same way, or Yashoda Maya treat Balu Gopal as a Bhagwan?
The former. They just see him as a child. That's their emotion. In Goloka Vrindavan, in Krishna Loka, in the spiritual world, they see Krishna as their child. Now, somebody asked this question a little kind of like trying to narrow that down a little bit. This is a devotee from China, said, is it, so over there is where he does his little baby pastimes, and over there is where he does his Kaishore pastimes, and over there is where he does his Yovana pastimes, and there's like these different rooms or different compartments or buckets or, but it's not like that. It's not like that. These are Nitya Leela. The mistake is to put his pastimes in time and space when they're not. As an example, when Narada went to Dwarka, it was simultaneously day and night and midday, simultaneously. Time is not like here. And space is not like there, and form is not like here. It's very flexible. However, now how does that work? It's just a different set of rules, a different experience. The Babas come and they go, and Krishna, does what he does to reciprocate with their emotions and his. And they move with his motions, and he moves with their emotions. It's not time, it's not three-dimensional space, and it's not time as we know it. So that's a mistake. I don't know if that's what your question is, but it's a mistake in thinking. It's superimposing our experience on that realm, which doesn't work. They have parental affection, and he has a little baby form. And he has everything is there. It's quite dynamic. It's not static.
And Bhuma, there's one more question. I think it was yesterday morning class when question was asked for the effort and mercy with the prayer mood. And I always believe like effort and mercy with the prayer mood. But sometime and afterward you mentioned that thing like we have to in the evening class you mentioned we have to keep the patience also at the same time.
Yeah.
If suppose if
I'm listening. Keep going.
devotees are doing the effort even in the spiritual path also and somehow they cannot make it and they don't get the Krishna's mercy.
Whoa, wait a minute.
So-
Wait, whoa, 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 whoa. Somehow they don't make it and they don't get Krishna's mercy.
Like suppose while doing the effort they leave their body, this janma is gone, this birth is gone,
And?
and then they don't get it Krishna's mercy.
Well, I'm sorry. That's the part that I'm stumbling on.
I can put in the other way.
Well, no, but don't get Krishna's mercy. What is that?
Because it takes some time, like.
But you've got a yardstick that says Krishna mercy when the bell rings. What about before the bell rings? Perfection is the bell ring. But there's no mercy until they get perfection? No, that's not right. So if one, here's Prabhupada's explanation. Supposing someone makes 80%, then you take another birth and you begin at 81%. It said 80%.
Actually, I was
I'm just editing the language.
So I just wanted to one thing, like people say, okay, we have to wait, and we have to be patient, or obviously we are getting the mercy. That is the reason we are surviving in this world.
Yes.
But
thank you.
in this karma, so that our previous karma affect our effort.
No, our karma doesn't affect your effort. Karma is not affecting your devotional effort. Good karma doesn't create good effort. Bad karma doesn't stop good effort. It's not karma bound. Bhakti is not bound by karma, or inhibited, or created by good karma, or inhibited by bad karma. No. Just take that conception, put it into garbage disposal.
So that means, Maharaj, whatever effort we are doing, we are not able to see Krishna's mercy, but Krishna is showing the mercy.
Well, let's edit your language again. There's perfection. And then there's before perfection. And there's mercy before perfection. I'm uncomfortable with the language that you're using. I'm sorry.
Sorry, Maharaj, like probably I'm not good one to put the words in the
Okay,
right way.
but words are important. So to go 1%, it's mercy. Look what Putana, what did she do? But she got a lot of mercy from the merciful. So it's not that everybody that dresses in a sari and goes to Mother Yasoda's home gets so. He did what he did for his own reasons. He did what he did. She got a lot of mercy. But supposing someone's practicing and they don't go back to Godhead, that doesn't mean they didn't get mercy.
I think I got the answer.
Okay.
That was my point, like not going to go back to God.
Okay, but you get mercy just by being engaged in devotional service to Krishna. Just, doing what you do in your home, engaging in devotional service to Krishna. That's Radharani's mercy upon you. Otherwise, you wouldn't have it. You'd be, doing something else. You've got mercy. And so grow it with gratitude in your heart and develop it and become more eligible for more mercy and so forth. And however far you go, that's how far you go. And then you continue in your next life but ideal is complete in this life. But it's effort and mercy. And mercy. There's no mercy unless you go back to Godhead. Not so. Even to begin, that's mercy. Okay? How are we doing? Online?
No questions on Facebook.
I have,
You have
yeah, so I have 3 questions. First one is from Shashimukhi Mataji. She asks, is Yogamaya and Mahamaya the same or different?
They're the same and different. That is to say, Mahamaya is an expansion of Yogamaya. I've narrated this already 2 times while here in Houston. I'll say it again the 3rd time. Every year at Krishna Janmashtami we hear about Krishna's appearance, and he's the 8th child of Devaki. When the 7th child of Devaki is in the womb of Devaki, Krishna summons Yogamaya. She comes, and he says, Yogamaya, I have some services for you. And she says, yes, sir. And so here's the first service. Transfer Balaram into the womb of Rohini. That's first service. Service number 2, take birth in the womb of Yashoda while I appear as the 8th child of Devaki. The next service, I am going to have, before it happens, he knows what's going to happen. He's the script writer. I'm going to have Vasudev carry me to the other side of Gokul and place me by the side of Yashoda. And he'll take you, Yogamaya, back to the prison house of Kamsa. And service number 4, Kamsa is going to try to kill you, but don't worry, you're my Yogamaya potency, he can't kill you. And after he fails, then your next service is you go throughout the land and you appear as Durga. He's talking to Yogamaya. So Yogamaya and Mahamaya, they're the same, and they're not the same. Mahamaya is the expansion of Yogamaya. Same energy, like Prabhupada's example, electricity makes things hot or cold, but it's one energy, electrical energy. So it's Krishna's energy, Yogamaya, Mahamaya, acting upon the living entity according to their regard for Krishna. Are you ready? Okay, next question.
1 minute.
Sending a text message, caught him thumb-handed.
The next question is also from Shashimukhi Mataji. It is, does the Yogamaya act the same with Mother Yashoda and Devaki and other personalities like Kamsa and the Asuras?
Yogamaya has all kinds of varieties of things that she does. So it's not, the action isn't the same. It's a potency to allow intimacy with Krishna, and that intimacy is going to be different according to the regard one has for Krishna. So Yogamaya acts differently, although in principle the same.
And then the next question is from Uttama Bhakta Prabhu. What should be the mood of a serious sadhaka? Serving Krishna primarily in the mood of a friend, or is the Supreme Lord in the forefront while not neglecting Vaidehi Bhakti guidelines?
Well, the teaching of Bhagavad Gita includes seeing Krishna as one's friend. Bhoktaram Yugatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Suhridam Sarvabhutanam 529 Bhagavad Gita. When we're to see him as our dearmost friend. But it's not the same, seeing as one's suhrid is not the same as Sakya Rasa. They they're directionally kind of the same, but it's not the same. The language is not the same. So therefore, in the English, see Krishna as our friend. See Krishna as your friend in the way that he speaks of in Bhagavad Gita. Here's our well-wishing friend situated in our heart. Always well-wishing friend situated in our heart. So seeing him in that way as friend, then therefore what? You serve him. Serve him how? Serve him according to the vidhis of sadhana bhakti. And when one's heart becomes sufficiently cleansed from serving him in the ways of sadhana bhakti, Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, then some spontaneous feelings will awaken and you'll have some further things to do internally, internal absorption in that mood of love. But that comes in time, with maturity. That's it. Yeah.
Actually, Guruji, this question is related to, like, I think.
Speak slowly.
This question is related to your class a couple of days back,
Okay.
in which you mentioned about Mother Yashoda giving birth to twins.
Yes. You want to hear that again?
Actually, I think I missed something in there. Did she give birth, or was Krishna transferred from her womb only to Devaki?
She gave birth to twins. It says our acharyas say specifically, Yogamaya was in her womb, Krishna was in her mind.
Okay.
And she gave birth.
So though they were like a...
It doesn't elaborate. Don't ask for details. Just says what I just said. And therefore Yogamaya is known as the younger sister. Because Krishna was born first and then Yogamaya was born second, so she was the younger sister. They were twins. The younger sister. And then when Vasudeva brought Krishna, Vasudeva Krishna, now in a two-armed form, baby, to the side of Yashoda, that Vasudeva Krishna merged with the Swayam Bhagavan Krishna and remained by the side of Yashoda. And the female child is what he took back. And he was thinking, and Devaki was thinking, this is Yashoda's child. It's Yogamaya. Okay? That?
Yeah, so this is a little different than what I thought. I thought that...
Don't tell me what you thought. Do you understand what I just said?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. She gave birth to twins. It's not often spoken about. It's not often spoken about in Scripture. Our acharyas describe it on the basis of scriptural authority, but that's what happened. So Krishna was the child of Yashoda and Nanda. It's often spoken of as the foster child, meaning the real parents, Vasudeva and Devaki, entrusted Krishna to them. And then Krishna was to go back and be with Vasudeva and Devaki. But actually, over and over and over again, Krishna is the son of Nanda and Jasoda. Not that Krishna was not the son of Vasudeva and Devaki, but just there was a different mood about his being their son. He can do all kinds of things. He can appear multiple places. He doesn't need mother and father. He can just appear. It's a pastime. Simultaneous. One place and second place appearing at midnight. No problem. Leela. And then enter into the example given is that in Dwaraka, Krishna manifested 16,000 Krishnas, and then when it came time to go to the Sudharma assembly hall, they all merged into one Krishna, went into the assembly hall. There weren't 16,000 Krishnas in the assembly hall. It's one. And then when he left the assembly hall, he expanded again into the 16,000 Krishnas and went back to his palaces. Similar.
We have one question coming in.
Okay.
Did you get it already?
It's not in here.
Guru Maharaj, till that time, can I ask something?
What?
Can I ask one question?
Yeah, well, we're waiting for the question to come in.
So, you mentioned Nand Baba went to the Kurukshetra. That time he was seeing Krishna as a divinity mood, and then afterward he was seeing as a son also.
He is Vasudeva?
I think Vasudeva or Nand Baba. I confused.
No. So what I read was Vasudeva.
Okay,
Nanda can only see one thing.
Baby Krishna.
Well, his child. They don't. He cannot see his divinity. He can dress up however he wants to dress up. He's my child. He's just so deeply immersed in that love. But Vasudeva has this two aspects of his love. He sees his divinity and he sees him as his child.
So that time Yog Maya was covering.
Of course. That was one of his questions. Yogamaya is acting with everybody amongst his devotees. Become a devotee and Yogamaya will take care of you too. All right? Yes.
This one's from Murli Manohar Prabhu.
Okay.
He asks, in Krishna's Prakat Leela, he performs many wonderful activities, and at the end of each of them, especially after killing the demons in Vrindavan, we see the Gandharvas, demigods, and Siddhas. They all very happily play music by beating kettle drums, singing his glories, etc. They are doing with full understanding that Krishna is the Supreme Personality.
Yeah. That's the demigods. They have that understanding.
And to follow up, so do all these personalities go back to the spiritual world after their lives end?
Who mean the Gandharvas and Charnas and Siddhas and all those people?
Yes.
I've never been asked that question before. Well, first let me compliment you for reading slowly. You're really trying hard, and I appreciate how hard you're trying, and it's 5 gold stars. So, anyone going back to Godhead depends upon purity. Like Prabhupada's statement, you can't enter fire without becoming fire. You can't go back to Godhead without becoming pure. So it depends on their purity, because we hear Gandharvas doing, bad things sometimes. But so it depends on purity whether you go back to Godhead or not. Okay?
I think, Raj, the question that was asked probably because you mentioned about
Slowly.
Yeah, you mentioned about all the soldiers in battlefield got liberated.
That's because they were in Krishna's presence when they left their bodies.
Oh, yeah, because they were leaving the bodies. That's why they went back to Godhead. But the
Okay.
Gandharvas, they are just
Okay,
shouting.
they just shout. Yeah,
They're not leaving
You're
the
not
body.
okay.
If I go play a drum somewhere, that's nice. Okay?
These are coming in as we go.
Okay, sure.
This one's from Sanchari. She asks, thank you for stating that bhakti is not bound by karma. Sometimes great guilt can arise in the hearts of someone who feels that they're not performing devotional service, such as deity worship, chanting, etc., properly because they are not quote-unquote pure. How can we explain this concept to such persons in a way that will soothe their hearts and encourage them to continue their service?
Krishna's loving. I'll tell a little story. This will, I think, will do it for Sanchari. One time I was visiting Singapore, and international flights, for some reason, maybe it's, I don't know why, maybe it's to avoid congestion during domestic busy hours, but they depart at ungodly hours and they arrive at ungodly hours. So I came in at 1:30 in the morning or something like that. That meant it was a night flight, and so got they picked me up, and after I got my bags and went to the place, and shortly thereafter it was going to be Mangal Arti. So I took a shower and was putting on my dhoti, and a very enthusiastic young girl, maybe 3 years old, couldn't wait till I put on my dhoti. She just had to come in and give me this gift. So, and I opened, I said, thank you very much, and finished putting on my dhoti, and then looked inside, and it was some necklaces that she had made. And they were, different size beads and different colors, and I don't wear necklaces anyways, but it was the love and devotion with which she offered it that just to this day I remember it. So, it wasn't offered with purity and precision and this and that and the other thing. But it was, it was a very meaningful, loving gesture, and which I'll never forget. So Krishna doesn't forget also. We offer as best you can with love, and Krishna is loving, and he's very grateful for even the smallest. Here's another statement that is memorable for me. This was Prabhupada speaking at the Henry Street Temple in New York, and one hot July summer morning during Bhagavatam class, Prabhupada was speaking. Krishna is so grateful, even the smallest amount of service. Then his voice went up some decibels and pitch. He said, if you come to Krishna's temple and you render even the smallest service, even you turn one screw, Krishna will never forget. So I always remember that whatever little service, sometimes people come and do some little something. And Krishna will never forget it. Offer with love as best you can. Whatever you have to offer with love. And Krishna will accept it gratefully and lovingly. So that's the encouragement, is Krishna's loving. And so do the best you can within your capacity, and you offer that. And you want your capacity to increase, Krishna will help you. Chant good rounds, it'll help you increase your capacity. You have something?
Yes, Maharaj. So you mentioned about love. So is it this understanding, is it correct that absence of enviousness towards Krishna or somebody is a reflection or is love?
Well, it's an indication of, it's not the essence of love. It's an indication of, yeah. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
jai.